Yeah. Wake up with coffee and sports. Sunrise glow, listen coast to coast. A flow like you know.
Offensively, who made them? Oh, Patrick Mahomes.
Sideline to sideline with plays to show. This network's got the spark.
When you put up 300 yards rushing against someone, that you got your butt whooped.
I feel like I would have liked to see Oregon Ohio State in the semis, not the quarters. So I think some reseeding is probably where I would change. But
they're out of their mind. They're going to do this 3 quarterbacks in a row.
Here's the crazy.
I just can't take it.
Birds keep flying high, fans cheering loud, and one podcast moving through the crowd. Meaty boys brawling, no holds barred loud. This wire life never in doubt. Tune into the vibe.
That's my bold prediction for the show. Devin Booker, in the next 3 years, he will be a Houston Rocket.
Because I still think Seth is still at the top of his game. I do. I think he's right there. Who knows? Maybe. Not this year, but one time soon. Why wouldn't we potentially see Seth and Roman? You know what I mean?
Tune in the vibe. Morning Reds, good centers. Got me on the mic, now let's spill the tea. Talking courtside dreams from history. Legends on the blacktop now and then. From Will to Steph, we hit it again. Open a chimes in, let's go deep. Young bloods rising, can't skip a beat. Puppy prospects with fire in their eyes. Draft night suckers and hoop dream highs. Wire to wire, bring the heat. Podcast magic can't be beat. Do better, but roll better. We're hoop heads, trendsetters.
What is poppin', y'all? It is your boy, Guard E3, and welcome to the And One podcast. And of course, joining me just like every week, he is the greatest co-host of all time. He is Mo Better. How you doing, Mo? Oh, you're muted, sir.
I'm doing great on a Thursday, man. Getting ready to talk some hoops, talk some playoff basketball. Let's get into it.
Absolutely. But, Mo, you know how we got to start this out. Underrated player of the week. If anybody's just tuning in for the first time, I see you, Michael Rogers. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. We always pick a player. It could be a player, team, executive that we don't think gets enough love that we want to shine some light on. So, Mo, who is your underrated player of the week this week?
Because the NBA family had like some tough news this week. Obviously, let's start with the sudden passing of Brendan Clark of the Memphis Grizzlies. If you don't know Brendan Clark, obviously he went to Gonzaga, came into the league, high energy player, one of those guys that has a great second jump, like quick off his feet, great finisher, just brought a lot of energy, great teammate. Everything I've heard of him, he was beloved in the locker room by all his teammates and friends. And it's just sad to see somebody's life to get cut that short, that early, age 29. So one of my underrated players is going to be Brendan Clark. Thoughts and prayers to him and his family. And the other one, obviously, is Jason Collins. And Jason Collins, in his own right, is a trailblazer. Obviously, Jason Collins came out years ago as a gay man in the NBA or in sports in general. But he was more than that. He and his brother were more than that. Jason Collins and his brother made their bones in the NBA as terrific team and low post defenders. And had really good careers. Jason would go on to be a great advocate for not just the game, but people in the community as well. So I just want to give him his flowers because to come out when it wasn't cool, being who he was, good for him. Good for him. And thoughts and prayers to the Collins family for their loss. Yeah,
it was unfortunate. to get that news. It's never a good thing. So definitely thoughts and prayers to the families of John Collins and Brandon Clark. And honestly, Mo, you kind of nailed it. I'm not even going to give out an underrated player of the week. So our underrated players of the week are going to be, and rest in peace, thoughts and prayers to their family and friends, Brandon Clark and Jason Collins. I'd say the first kind of topic I wanted to talk about, Mo, of course, we had a big event a couple days ago. Of course, I'm talking about the NBA draft lottery. My Bucks apparently are, picking 10. That's going to be a lot of fun. I see names like Nate Ben say mock to us. I guess the real question is, obviously, it's going to be, if you're the Washington Wizards, is it AJ Dimebasta? Is it Cam? Is it Boozer? Say at the end of the day, the Jazz are getting a fantastic player regardless. So, I guess Mo, if you're the GM of the Washington Wizards, do you go Dimebasta, Boozer, Peterson? Where do you think the Wizards go with this first overall pick?
I think if it were me, I'm going Dimebasta. That's me. I think he's so dynamic, and I think he would. I think if you pair it, because I'm thinking about what the Wizards are now. So you're looking at what Sarr is going to bring you. I think a front line of Sarr and Anthony Davis. I think Dimebasta could be the guy who can play the 3 or the 2, dynamic off the bounce, can shoot, get to the rim. You also have a Trae Young there. So to me, that would be where I'm going if I'm the Wizards.
And also, the fun little note. Obviously, Trae Young is one of the better point guards at throwing lobs in the NBA. Fun note from the combine: AJ Diabasa's max vertical, 42 inches. So that would actually give Trae Young another really nice lob threat from the small forward position, because there's not a lot of guys that can get that high, especially at 6'10". That's absurd. So I feel like obviously, I think it'd be an interesting experiment too. AJ obviously in college was just kind of very ball dominant, and it'd be quite the learning curve for him to almost have to come in and immediately learn how to play off the ball, unless they're going to try to move Trae Young off the ball. So overall, I agree. I think AJ is just the first overall pick here, but it will be kind of an interesting dynamic to see how they kind of merge the two ball dominant players together and make it work. And then of course the Jazz would be ecstatic if Boozer fell to 2. If anybody doesn't know, though, Carlos Boozer is actually in the Jazz front office, so he'd get to be on a team that drafted his son. So I think that would be interesting.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't rule out Boozer going to the Jazz because of that connection. Well, although if you look at how the Jazz are put together, remember they just got Jaren Jackson, and you're putting together Jaren Jackson with marketing. I'm not sure you could go marketing Jackson and Boozer. Because I don't think that necessarily works. So maybe Boozer, but I'm thinking they're going to go with somebody. They're going to go with a perimeter player. They'll probably go with the kid from that everybody calls the headache, the kid from Kansas.
Hey, what's good, Kurum? He's obviously not some big executive, but he's in the scouting and player evaluation department. But obviously, I'm sure he has a pretty sizable voice in the front, in that room. So Carlos is actually in the Jazz front office. I don't think a lot of people knew that one. By the way, who else has a kid in the draft that I genuinely didn't see it coming, that I didn't realize? Brook Lopez.
Really?
Yeah. And you
Wow,
could tell, You can tell it's his kid too because he looks exactly like him. Same like facial expressions, the curly hair. You're like, yeah, you're related to Brooke. Say, but yeah,
Is his son? Is his son highly sought out? Because I didn't even know.
I think most people are kind of putting him in closer to the second round than the first. So
Okay.
I say, I think a more interesting side notes. Obviously, the Bulls get the fourth pick, which they cover your ears, Bulls fans. They didn't do well last time with the fourth pick. That was obviously 2020, which was the Patrick Williams draft. But
Well, that's not a good memory.
I say the kind of like the last team I wanted to touch on though, real quick, Mo. After the way the lottery fell, do you think the Zubac trade was worth it? Because if people didn't catch it, they traded the Pacers traded the 2029 first and this year's first. However, this year's first was top picks 1 through 4 protected. Well, the pick just happened to fall to 5, so the Clippers got the 5th overall this year, and then 20. I believe, like I said, I believe it's a 2029 first and Benedict Mathurin for Zubac. So now, kind of looking back on the trade, do you think the result changes anything or no?
Well, it ends up not being great for the Pacers. And out of nowhere, where things look kind of bleak, the results changed a lot because the Clippers suddenly went from having nothing. They got a lottery pick. They've got a top 5 pick. And they're a franchise that desperately needs a top 5 pick. Now, my guess is they'll do what they normally do and clipper it up like they normally do. So I'm assuming they're probably not going to keep the pick. They'll trade the pick for some guy that's already been in the league, and it won't work out. The smart move, the harder move, draft and develop a player. You need to. Kawhi's 35. The truth of the matter is, because you have Mathurin and Darius Garland, the same way I know LeBron's not part of the Lakers' future, Kawhi's not part of the Clippers' future. You got to move off of Kawhi. You got Garland, Mathurin, and this kid that you draft at 5. There's your core, and then build around them. But I think the Clippers, because they are not used to doing this, sometimes you actually got to do the hard thing and draft and develop a player. Try it out. See how it works. That would be the smart move going forward. Obviously, trading Kawhi Leonard would be smart too, no matter what you get back, because you're not going to get back a haul because you're talking about a 35-year-old star with his injury record. So, yeah. But, yeah, I think, look, obviously the Wizards are the biggest winners, but in terms of coming out of nowhere, I think it's the Clippers.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree. The Pacers will still be good next year for sure. Yeah, I think it's
a healthy Hallie. They'll be fine.
I'll say, yeah, no. I think at the end of the day, I think it was still a fine gamble. I think it's a trade you still take a chance and make. The Pacers' one big hole going into next year was obviously center. So we get getting somebody like Zubac, who every time we see Zubac, I would say pretty consistently at least plays at an all-star level, and he can occasionally hit that fringe all and so you get like that fringe like all NBA convo at his best like a couple years ago, but mainly it's like an all-star caliber center. That's huge. That's huge to get that's huge for the Pacers.
Yeah, I know a lot of people. I've seen all the people on social media kill their general manager, obviously about the trade because now the Clippers have the pick, but I don't think getting Big Z was a mistake at all. It's going to look a lot better, Brett, and you know this, when Big Z has Hallie setting him up for lobs and dunks left and right.
No, absolutely. So, Mo, we got to talk about it. It's an interesting conversation. Before the playoffs started, I don't think there was anybody due for a possibly bigger like payday than Jalen Duren. We're talking about a guy who we're talking possibly makes All NBA. Maybe he qualifies for that Supermax. Doesn't get the full Supermax, but he gets a very nice raise. Now I don't even know if they give him a max. Like, he's been brutal in these playoffs. So I guess, Mo, what are your thoughts on this whole Jalen Duren situation? And do you think that he still maybe ends up with the max? Because, there are teams that will probably still throw that max offer sheet at him. But do you think that somebody's going to bite and maybe throw a max at him? Or how much money do you think he's lost with this performance?
I can't put a exact dollar amount, but I can say that there's no way that he and his representatives, his agents, see the struggles he's having in the postseason. And this isn't one series. He wasn't good in round one. He's still struggling in round two. I would argue his struggles have a lot to do why this series is where it is. I'm not putting it all on him, but the fact that he's gone from averaging 19 points and 12 rebounds to averaging 9 points and 9 rebounds, that's a complete 360 in terms of his production and the impact that he has. If I'm a Pistons fan, honestly, I would be okay with Jalen Duren if he only averaged 12 points a game, but he was still pulling down 16 or 18 boards and getting 2 or 3 block shots. Like, he was still impactful. Clearly, he has a long ways to go in his development. And while he had a career regular season, I don't think anybody that's watching him is ready to claim that he's ready to be a number 2 option in terms of winning a title. I think he's still an important piece. I still think he's proven he's an all-star caliber player. He might even all NBA deservedly this year, a third team at least. But I can't, like I said, I can't put a dollar amount. I can only tell you there's no way the Pistons are going to give that guy the max. That would be insane.
Hey, you know what? I think the only way he gets a max is if another team jumps. Since he did his restricted free agency. So, like, maybe if LeBron leaves and your Lakers think that Luka needs a rim running guard or a rim running center to pair with, or which I don't think it'll be.
We do.
I don't know if it'll be the Lakers, but I do think that they'll have to pay more than they're comfortable for. I think some team's going to make him sweat it out, but I think he ends up on Detroit still. I see the rumors about, like, trade him for, Kevin Durant or whatever, and I don't like the idea of just trading Jalen Duren for a Band-Aid. Like, if you're going to trade him, make sure it's somebody who can
that's what
contribute
Durant
to the
is.
team. Right, like, I think KD is clearly, I think he'd, like, keep their, title window open for another year or two. But I'd rather see somebody young, that can grow with the core that can help keep that title window open for like half a decade to a decade. And that guy could be Duren. But if you are going to move on from him, just make sure you get that one right.
Yeah, I think that's so important, right? That when you're putting together your team and the roster construction means everything in the NBA. You know this. And I'm a Jalen Duren fan. I'm impressed with how he continues to develop, but he's unfinished. And I know we talked about it a little bit before the show. He's 22, man. Like, you can be disappointed in the playoffs that he's had, but he's an unfinished product. I'm not going to be one of those people to go, he's a bum, let's write him off. He's far from that. He's unfinished. He was ready for playoff basketball with teams respecting him and treating him like an all-star and giving him that kind of attention. I think he will get better, no doubt. But this is a learning experience for him. It is. He'll be fine. I think they're going to offer him a great deal. If it's less than the max, maybe he'll be disappointed, but it'll be a fair deal. As much as I like him, all we talk about are the Pistons' offensive struggles and how desperately they need a legitimate number 2 for Cade, which, by the way, this series is 3-2. I'm going to give the Cavaliers credit. I have to. Before the series started, I looked at the two teams, and even though I said Detroit was flawed, that they struggled to score, I thought Detroit's mentality, their physicality, and the way they approached the game would be too much for the Cavaliers because the Cavaliers are not known for being tough or gritty. To their credit, matching Detroit's physicality, matching Detroit at going for 50-50 balls, matching Detroit, even defensively, they've upped the ante. Like suddenly they couldn't guard Tobias Harris, and now they're shutting Tobias Harris down. Like Cade is still putting up numbers, but they're also making him turn it over an insane amount. No matter what happens in this series, if you're a Detroit fan, if you're a Detroit front office, yeah, you have your concerns should be you absolutely want Jalen Duren back, but you have to recognize if we're ever going to make a major leap forward and really have a shot to go to the finals, you've got to get a second guy who can not only create for himself, but for others to take pressure off of Cade. You cannot have just one person on your roster that can create off the dribble. That's insane.
By the way, side note on this too, I had never seen anything what JB Bickerstaff did with Paul Reed in Game 5. Like, genuinely, it didn't play him the first 3 quarters, and then he just played the entire fourth quarter in overtime. I had never seen anybody really, like, distribute minutes like that. I thought that was interesting.
I didn't really understand that either, especially in here. This is weird, right? But we're going to keep it a buck. We were just talking about Jalen Duren. And everything I said about him, I fully believe. But you know who's played better than Jalen Duren consistently when he's played? Paul Reed. Paul Reed looks like a man among boys sometimes when he's out there. If I'm JB Bickerstaff for Game 6, I got to get Paul Reed in the game ASAP because he brings energy, a physicality, a toughness, and the struggles that Duren has with the ball in the paint, Paul Reed doesn't have. One, because Paul Reed doesn't drop the ball down. When he catches it, he keeps it high and he attacks that way, like most big men should. Jalen Duren's he in traffic, he's trying to take rhythm bounces. You can't do that. It was weird that Paul Reed doesn't play, then suddenly he plays the whole fourth quarter. It was like he was under suspension, and then they were like, all right, you're good to go for the fourth quarter. That was crazy, and I don't know if you saw it, but I didn't see anybody in the postgame, Brett, ask Coach Bickerstaff about that.
No, absolutely. And honestly, Mo, for this, Harden will blow it. I think Harden already kind of did his job. And what I mean by that is I think that at this point in his career, the most you can expect from James Harden is it's just like almost feels like the Philly series again. He won you 2 games. Like he was excellent in games 4 and 5 after having a rough games 1 and 2. And he was even good in game 3. At this point, I don't think it's really going to be Harden that blows it, if anything. You know, there's all this talk about, you know, Donovan Mitchell being the best player on the team, playoff riser, conversation for best shooting guard in the league. All right, show it. Close this series out. Evan Mobley, you got that big max contract. Close this series out. I think Harden is going to end up being like an easy scapegoat for a lot of people. But I think my eyes, if they lose the series, are going to go it's going to go to Donovan Mitchell mainly. It's going to go right to Evan Mobley, James Harden, and even, like Max Strus, won you a game in game 5 by just going nuts off the bench, 6 of 8 from 3. So I think we're at a point in the series where if the Cavs are going to close us out, Donovan Mitchell, you're the best player. Take him home.
I'm glad you said it, partner. It should have been said. James Harden is not Cleveland's best player. He's not their second best player. That's actually Evan Mobley. Um, for your third best player, which he is, to do what he did in games 3, 4, and 5, I would say he more than did his job, right? If when you're the man of the guy, if the Cavaliers are going to advance, I'm with you. Their best player, their franchise player, if you will, Donovan Mitchell, he was incredible. Was it the second half of game 4 or second half of game 5? He was amazing. But he's going to need 2 more performances. Well, 1 more performance like that at least for them to advance. That's who I put it. I put it on him, and I put it on. It's a team sport, but the main 2 guys that set the tone are Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. When you get big games from James Harden and Max Strus, they're not your 2 main guys. But I'm with you. I think James Harden has already given you 3 games. 2 of them were terrific games, 4 and 5. This is on Donovan Mitchell more than anything, along with Evan Mobley. And look, if Detroit should lose, and I picked Detroit, we made our picks. I picked Detroit. I just thought they were mentally tougher. But like I said, I'm really impressed with the grit that the Cavaliers have shown, especially in games 4 and 5. There were times that the Cavs looked like they were trying to give the game away, and they found the way to fight back and get the win. And so my gut tells me we're going to go 7, but I have no idea who's going to win at this point.
No, absolutely. Say absolutely. Honestly, kind of touching back on the Duren thing, though, Mo, I think in order for this offense and team to work, either he or Asur just need to develop some semblance of an outside of the paint scoring move. I don't even need a 3. Like Asur Thompson, learn how to shoot like a 10-foot floater consistently to threaten the defense, and I can live with that. But I can't have both Jalen Duren and Asur Thompson just hanging out near the dunker spot. Like, people talk about Cade being inefficient. Why do you think that is? Like, with the way this roster's construction, efficiency is pretty much a myth unless you're Tobias Harris and you go on an absolute heater out of absolute nowhere. Kerm is in here too. Of course, I guess got one question, Kerm. Is your guy AJ Mitchell got the best contract in the NBA? It's got to be a conversation on that one. I feel like he's got to be a top 3 contract in the NBA. Say 3 years, $9 million for that guy. Woo, that's a good one.
So somebody asked me a question, and I always try not to be prisoner of the moment, Brett. And I mean, you're really good at that as well. But I actually did I paused for a beat when they asked me this, and they said it is Asia Mitchell, is he anywhere near as good as Austin Reeves? And I actually had to think about that, because the answer I gave was, I was like, honestly, at a glance, I don't know, because I look at Asia Mitchell and go, this kid is so poised, so skilled, so under control. If he and the more he plays, Brett, the more numbers he puts up. It's not a fluke, because he was doing it in the regular season when he got big numbers. I think Austin Reeves established himself sooner, and has obviously been a more prolific scorer in the short time that he established himself. But if you're asking me, let's say we were starting the season out fresh, and they said, Mo, you had an opportunity to have Asia Mitchell or Austin Reeves, who would you take? I don't think it's that clear cut. I think I would take Mitchell, because he's actually an elite defender too, Brett. If you watch OKC, Mitchell's also one of their better defenders, and he's one of their better ball handlers and secondary facilitators. I don't want to be prisoner of the moment, but I don't know who's better, honestly. I really don't.
I was going to say, is it controversial to say that I think they're like a very similar level of player, except I think AJ Mitchell just has higher potential? Like I think they're just in a very like similar tier right now. But I think a lot of that kind of has to do with AJ Mitchell getting a more limited role being on the Thunder with like lower usage. But he's already shown that every time he wants to ramp up the usage, he's capable. So I think even just right now, I'd put him in the same tier of player. But I actually genuinely think AJ Mitchell will just end up being a better player than Austin Reeves.
And by the way, this is a shade against Austin Reeves, who, for where he came from and what he's done, I think he's a terrific offensive talent. I'm one of the people that I'm not sold that Austin Reed is a 2. I think what I see from Austin Reeves is he's a terrific third option. I think he's more of a 3, and I think he's a terrific 3. But I do think that if you look at these two players going forward, I'm not going to say who's going to score more. I'm just saying who's going to be a better player. Because Austin Reeves, his whole career is in front of him. Maybe it's just that I think Mitchell has more natural talent, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But hey, fun season for your Lakers, and I gotta give JJ Redick credit, Mo. When I looked at this roster before the year, I would have been stunned if you guys made it out of the first round. But hey, you did it. Made it to the second, which honestly, with how like wacky this roster construction really is, and then injuries to Luka, LeBron, Reeves, like I feel like this year showed how good of a coach JJ Redick was. Like, regardless of who showed up, he still drugged this team to 50 wins. He still, knocked off the Rockets in the first round, and he unfortunately has to run into OKC in the second. But I feel like if there's a good takeaway from the Lakers season to be had, I feel like JJ Redick really made, improved, his standing as the head coach of the league, because he was terrific this year for him.
I think JJ Redick is a terrific coach, and I actually think that he's going to continue to get better as a coach in that role. The season that we had, a lot of that had to do with JJ Redick's schemes and his system. I think even him juggling the roster, they had so many different starting lineups, and he found a way to make it work. Now I'm in the minority. I wasn't in awe of the Lakers beating the Rockets because I said they was going to beat the Rockets. The Rockets weren't a good team. By the time we got to the playoffs, the Rockets were rocky. They were not a good team with no chemistry, no connection, no anything. I'm actually shocked that the Rockets showed some fight and won 2 games in a row to get back into the series. We almost blew the series, but that had to do with the coaching and the culture. Whatever they do this offseason, they include JJ Redick in their decision making. He should be part of that process.
I'm watching the Wings versus Lynx game. What about that 3 that Paige Beckers just hit, by the way? I'm also watching the Wings versus Lynx game. You got to keep updated on the Lynx.
Paige buckets is bad.
Yeah.
What up, Kyle?
What's good, Kyle? Another takeaway I have from this Wings Lynx game, by the way, is every single GM might go to Chicago to tar and feather the GM of the Chicago Sky, because what do you mean they just handed the Minnesota Lynx Olivia Miles? She's such a good prospect and a good fit for them. I honestly, they just might end up banning the GM from the Sky from every single GM meeting just because they're mad at him at this point, because she is so good. Go Wings, fair. I'll say, yeah, but no, I guess obviously it'll be interesting to see. We're gonna have make a decision. LeBron's gonna hit unrestricted free agency. We'll see where he goes. See if he stays. Another fun. Another fun question I have from these playoffs, Mo. Should Wemby have been suspended or at least fined heavily for that elbow that he threw in game 4? Because honestly, that was absurd. The fact that he looked him down and then just threw an elbow, I genuinely thought he was going to get suspended for game 5 at least.
Yeah, I thought at a minimum he should get a heavy fine. Because I love how in the moment when he did it, in the aftermath, after the game and the post game, how the race became, what narrative are we going to go with? And the narrative they went with that a lot of pundits picked up on was Wemby had. I love that he did that he protected himself. He had to let people know. And my question was, protect himself from what? Or the Wolves punching him in the back of the head? Did he get elbowed? Did he get socked? Did he get kicked? Did he get tripped? No, you know what the Wolves did? They played him physically, which, by the way, is what everybody does to Wemby. It's kind of the only thing you can do with him right now. And it's not illegal and it's not dirty. And so he might not like it. He might not like physicality. And you don't have to like it, but it doesn't justify a blatant elbow. You can't do what he did. And then afterwards, everybody said, well, he had to protect himself. I'm sorry. What he did wasn't justified on any level. He wasn't retaliating from a dirty play. He literally sized up Naz Reid, like you said, and delivered a blatant elbow. Now, in my mind, I thought, okay, he's going to get suspended for this game and a heavy fine. That's where my head was at. But he didn't even get a heavy. I thought Adam Silver in the league handled Wemby with kid gloves because he's Wemby. And while I do believe you got to protect star players if they're victims of like dirty plays or stuff like that, I understand that. That's not the situation in this series. They're not doing it's not like they're doing the Jordan rules, like the bad boy Pistons, and beating Wemby up and slamming him to the ground every chance. That's not what's happening. Especially for this era where they don't allow a lot of physicality. They're just playing him hard. That's it. They're not, it's nothing dirty. They're just playing him hard. They're offering resistance. And so I was disappointed in how Silver handled, I guess, his discipline or his punishment. And I was a little disappointed in his coach because he tried to imply he did it because he had to save himself or protect himself. And it was I'm glad he did it. And I didn't understand that because I'm like, protect himself. What happened? What happened to make him elbow Naz Reid into where you would agree and go, that was a good move. You needed to do that. Because I didn't see what happened.
If that was Draymond Green, you would have been ejected and suspended the next game. I think at this point, Adam Silver would have probably just stuffed him on a rocket ship and launched him off the planet at this point. Like, I don't even know what to tell. Well, yeah, no, he's absolutely right. And Draymond actually went on Twitter and commented on this, said they've come for my career for less. It's one of those things where, yeah, you could tell he got major preferential treatment. You know, I love Wemby, but I'm like, come on, you got to at least fine him or something. Like, hit him where it hurts. Take some of his money. Like, he'll be all right. Give Michael Grady props? Absolutely.
That's all I said. Just take some of his money, but just show us that you're going to make him accountable.
No, absolutely.
And look, I'm like you and most fans. We're waiting to see the Thunder versus the Spurs. But I'm gonna give the Wolves credit. A lot of people did not have this being a series.
No, absolutely.
Although I will say this, looking at this.
say I will say with what the Spurs are cooking up here. Yeah, they're gonna have to make a
Julius
decision on
Randle's
these.
last year with the Wolves.
I I think it is probably Julius Randle's last year with the Wolves. He's been really rough this series. Feels like this Wolves team is kind of at a point where they almost hit their ceiling.
So you and I are both Rudy Gobert fans, which makes us oddballs because most people go after Rudy. But I had an idea I wanted to run by you. Like, I don't think the Wolves need a rebuild, but I do think they need a reset. Meaning, I it might be time. I think it's time to move on from Randall. It's not time to move on from Rudy, but I would say this: they need to draft, and I can't emphasize this enough. They do need to draft Rudy's replacement. They do need to draft an athletic big, and I mean athletic in the sense much more athletic than Rudy that can finish at the rim. Like they need to get that guy that's going to eventually be his replacement on the roster now, ASAP.
Yeah, I think they might have that guy on the roster. I don't know yet because obviously they haven't really been playing him a ton because they're trying to win right now. But Joan Behringer, they just drafted him last year. He's 7 foot athletic freak. And honestly, like having him sit this year to kind of learn behind Rudy, I think is just a very smart call. So I think he might be there, but obviously the Joan is just a kind of a very raw prospect. So there's also a very real chance that he's never ready. But I think he at least has all the physical and athletic tools to be their center for at least the next 5 to 7 years. It's just they just got to get him time and try to get him some more development next year.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I understand what the league saw and what they and you're just kind of saying what they determined. I get that. I just don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. Like I usually when something like that happens, they go back and review the tape and they go, maybe there was an incident that we missed that kind of led up to that. That was not the case. It was just look, and I don't think Wemby's a dirty player, but obviously what he did in that moment, that was a dirty play.
When I saw that play, Mo, I'm not even joking. It gave me flashbacks to that one when Ron Artest elbowed James Harden. Because I'm just like,
Oh
dude,
God, that was brutal. Yeah,
he didn't even try to show remorse. He just looked at him and threw an elbow. And like the Ron Artest one was brutal, but the fact that he was trying to play it off like he was celebrating and he didn't see where James Harden was just it it was slightly funny with the way he tried to play it off, even though the whole situation wasn't funny at all. Like, come on,
Artest
Ron.
did the worst acting job. It was the worst acting job I've ever seen in the NBA, and I've seen a lot of bad ones. But Artest trying to play it off like it's part of the celebration. When you saw that happen in real time, it looked like he took James Harden's head off. And I'm impressed. I'll say this. James Harden might have had a future as a boxer. Because if you can take a blow like that and continue playing, it's tougher than I thought. But I would argue the Ron Artest elbow to James Harden, it is one of the dirtiest, brutalest plays I've ever seen. As bad as what Wemby did, it doesn't even compete with that. That is still worse than what Wemby did. Like, I don't know how Artest wasn't suspended for several games.
No, yeah, like so that's just kind of what we were saying. If they weren't going to suspend him, they should have at least fined him.
Yep.
He was a different guy because he changed his name to Meta World Peace. He's got World Peace in his name. He can't be an aggressive guy. Come on now.
I would say this: the thing that people sleep about on Ron, it's an aura, but Ron has a natural fear factor when you mess with him. Really is that unpredictable. Like Ron is a different dude. I know he's meta world, but he's always been a different dude. Um, I joked that if Ron Artest was a rookie in the current NBA, he'd be much worse than Dylan Brooks ever was.
It's interesting because Ron was just kind of very raw when he came into the league. It's one of the real question with him would have been, would a team have enough patience to wait for him to develop? Because the end product was worth it. Just kind of took a hot minute to get to that end product. But yeah, it feels like teams are just more impatient than ever right now. So
we don't develop players now. If you draft somebody and they don't break within the first couple of years, these teams are already moving. Look how fast the Sixers moved off of Jared McCain, and then look what Jared McCain is doing for the. By the way, let me add. I'm going to pile on here. I heard someone say that they said it today that Daryl Morey is the most overrated GM in NBA history. That is 100% true. Daryl Morey is the most overrated GM ever in NBA history. He has won nothing. He has never won anything. There's no claim to fame about he put together he's never put together anything. What he does is he does the easy thing. He doesn't believe in player development. He makes trades. He goes out and he gets veteran proven players because developing players, doing the hard thing, it takes time. He gave up on Jared McCain that quick. Made no sense. I think it's a good. I don't know what the Sixers are going to do in the offseason, but getting rid of Daryl Morey, you've already a general principle by getting rid of him.
Yeah, it's interesting with Morey because you would think he was turning the corner with the young talent because you're like, all right, he drafted Maxey. McCain looks like he has promise. Obviously, you had Edgecombe. And then he just turns around and trades McCain. And even when the trade was made, everybody's like, what? Like there are other ways to dump salary. You genuinely didn't need to let go of McCain if you wanted to get under that apron. And I'm guessing they just wanted that Thunder first, but
right.
Like I said, I believe it was the Thunder first. It was some first from the Thunder. They have a million picks. I don't know exactly which one it was. But I'm just sitting there like that. The Thunder don't have that good of picks to be really just trading away young talent. We got a fun back and forth game going between Minnesota and Dallas, 85-85.
The crazy part is, Brett, the Thunder got McCain. Yeah, I think the crazy part is the Thunder got Asia Mitchell and McCain, but they also have they're going to have a top 10 pick in this draft. Like Sam Presti is just that dude.
It's one of those things where the teams that know how to develop players just happen to be the teams at the top of the league right now. Not a coincidence.
I love that you put that out there. We need to run that on a loop. Look at the Spurs. Look at the Thunder. Not an accident. And they're doing it right. The Knicks are doing it in a different way, but they're doing it right. Developing young talent. I think this is where the league is at. The days of there being big threes or things like that, where you bring in three max. I think that's over. I think the emphasis is going to be on player development, and OKC has always been ahead of the curve on that one. It's one of the reasons why when J-Dub goes down, when Chet goes, Isaiah Joe steps up. Oh, Asia Mitchell steps up. Casey Wallace steps up. Lou Dort steps up and has a big game. Wiggins out of nowhere has a 20-plus point game. Like that with their front office along with their scouts is unprecedented. I'm jealous as a Laker fan. Like, how come I can't get an Asia Mitchell? Like, they got Asia Mitchell. I think he was the 30th pick of that draft. Now, obviously, there's no secret who we got. We got him with the 55th pick. That was Bronny. But my point is, like, we couldn't have made a move, nothing to go get Asia Mitchell. Like, you really like, and it's crazy when you think about it. He got drafted 30th. Now think of all the guys drafted ahead of Asia Mitchell that he's better than already by a mile.
You know what's even crazier, Mo? He was actually drafted 38th. So, say they got him in the
oh my god, that's the
second round.
Okay,
yeah, it's crazy. Say that's how they are able to get him on that like insane 3-year, $9 million contract. Which, by the way, he's never seeing that team option. If I know Sam Presti like I do, Sam Presti's absolutely declining that team option. As weird as it sounds. Say the Sam Presti way has always been, let's decline these options early and lock the player into a team-friendly extension. So I think you're going to have him on the books for obviously $2 million next year, and then I believe it's after the following year after that you hit that team option. I truly believe that they're going to decline it and just extend him, make sure he doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. And look, you know how this goes. At some point, the Thunder will hit a wall where they can't pay everybody, which is a reality. Their guys play so well that they're going to get better offers from other teams. But Sam Presti has done such a great job of stockpiling picks. I feel like if they lose a Dort or a Wallace, the guy that's going to replace them is already on the roster. Like, that's how good Sam Presti is. We forget, like, what OKC is doing right now, Brett. Let's not forget that they're doing it without their second best player. And I don't know when J Dub's coming back. Maybe he doesn't, but I think that makes this run even more impressive if they're going to keep doing it absent of him. If they win this title and he barely plays, nobody should get more flowers than Sam Presti.
Absolutely. So Mo, I got a fun little game for us to play. I think you'll enjoy this one. Obviously I was in a Twitter debate, and it somehow boiled down to who is better in the 2000 as a 2000s point guard, Darren Williams or Rondo, and that gave me an idea, Mo. Why don't we just figure out where Darren Williams would rank among 2000s point guards? And I think I have them in the order where I would rank them personally, but we're going to see if Darren Williams can move up from where I have him or if he's moving down from where I have him. And I'll even throw in an honorable mention just to make it fun. So I guess, Mo, we'll start with the honorable mention. Darren Williams or Stephon Marbury?
Ooh, that's tough, but I would lean towards D. Will.
All right, you got your next one is Darren Williams or Baron Davis?
So in terms of my taste, I like Baron Davis better, but I think Darren Williams is a better basketball player.
That's fair. So you're gonna go with Darren on that one? Oh, say Kyle went with Davis.
I'm going with. Okay. I'm going. So my thing is, without even looking, I don't even look at. I remember this about Baron Davis. I don't know if Baron Davis ever shot more than 40% from the field his career. Now you can look it up, but I can tell you, a terrific athlete. We always talk about freakish athletes. Baron Davis would be a young Baron Davis would still be a freak athlete in today's basketball, but he was about as good a shooter as Russell Westbrook, which isn't very good.
Yeah, no, fair. Williams had yeah, fair. Right now, we're trying to figure out where Darren Williams ranks among 2000's point guards. So from 2000 to 2009. So Davis had a better season. Yeah. So we got next up Darren Williams or Rajon Rondo. Who is better in the 2000s? Mind you, this is how this debate started because I'll give you my answer right now. It's Darren Williams.
I'm going with Darren Williams. Rondo had more team success. Rondo, obviously, I'm telling you what he was better at. He was a better defender, better facilitator. But I don't think he was better. He definitely wasn't a better offensive player. Like Darren Williams is clearly a better offensive player.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, I personally like
See now
D Will here. Now, I think these next two are interesting, and I think this.
So
by the
now
way,
I get. You know what happened? I had to find out.
What's up?
Well, I'm looking at Baron Davis's best season, and that was 2003, 2004. He averaged, I'll just round up, 23 points a game, 7 assists. But I'm gonna go what I said before. 23 points a game, 7 assists, Brett. He shot 39% from the field. He shot 32% from three. That's his best season. I love Baron Davis, but he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat.
No, that's fair. His strength was never efficiency. That's for sure. So Darren Williams is currently sitting at 8th on our 2000s point guard list, above Baron Davis and Rajon Rondo. Standing ahead of him at number 7, the glove, Gary Payton. Very good career, still in the 2000s, but I think you can make an argument. Gary Payton, while he was fading in the 2000s, Darren Williams had a pretty crazy peak in the 2000s. So this might be as simple as Darren Williams, because when it comes to the 2000s, he was at the peak of his powers, and GP, as good as he was, slow decline. So would you rather have
you got Rondo?
Yeah, so I guess next would you? Yeah, Kyle's got Rondo. But yeah, I guess next would you rather have Darren Williams or Gary Payton
over Baron Davis? Take Rondo over. I would take Rondo over Baron Davis. I wouldn't take him over Gary Payton. Gary Payton is just a better player than Baron.
I'm biased towards playoff Rondo. I don't even know what, like, the thing of it. No, I got you, Kyle.
I think 2000 Gary Payton is still better than Rajon Rondo. That's not even close. Like, look what he was doing even at age 32. Gary Payton is giving you 23-8 with 2 steals. Yeah, that's something Rondo could never do.
No, absolutely. I have to take my Celtics guy. You know what? I get it. Hey, technically Gary Payton was a Celtics guy, but no, so like I said, so currently as it stands, we got Baron Davis at 10, Rondo at 9. D Will is chilling at 8, but the question is, are we moving him up to 7 to jump Gary Payton? Which I personally think that I would move him up ahead of Gary Payton for the 2000s.
Who's at 7?
7 right now is Gary Payton. But like I said, we're trying to figure out if Darren Williams would jump Gary Payton. I'd say, yeah. Like I said, I would go with Darren. I know we at 6. I'd say it's too close. That's fair. That's fair. Unfortunately, it seems like Mo's having some internet issues right now. So, like I said, I got D Will at. Say it's so close, but like I said, I'll give D Will the slight edge considering he was at the peak of his powers and GP was on a little bit of a slower decline, but still very good. Coin toss, you could go either way. And I think really that's probably where I'd about have them. We're talking about because you start running into some pretty challenging people to beat, right? At 6, for example, I got Gilbert. Who's number 6 for me right now? I have Gilbert. Which honestly, I would keep Gilbert ahead of Darren. It's a challenge. It's a challenge with Darren too because he did come in like halfway through the decade, and guys like Gilbert, Tony Parker, they have a whole like decade on them. So yeah, like I said, at 6 I got Gilbert, and just for fun, I'll give you the rest of the list. I got 5 Tony Parker, which honestly I might move him up because I have Chauncey Billups at 4, CP3 at 3, Jason Kidd at 2, Steve Nash at 1. And it looks like the Lynx are going to survive a close. Tony Parker might be top 3. It's so tough with Tony Parker. Like, he's got the team success over these guys. But, like, as an individual talent, it's hard to say if he was really better than someone like Chauncey or CP3. But I will say with Tony Parker, if you want to tell me he's better than Chauncey Billups, I'll accept that. I just think that when it comes to Nash, Kidd, and CP3, to me that's the lock of the top 3. Like I said, if you want to argue, Parker above Chauncey at 4 and 5, I'll absolutely that's fair. Like I said, so I think that's fair. I'm willing to concede. I'll go Parker at 4. Billups at I'm willing to concede and put Parker at 4 with Chauncey at 5, which would make the list Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, CP3, Tony Parker, Chauncey Billups, Gilbert Arenas, Darren Williams, Gary Payton, Rajon Rondo, and Baron Davis. Which, honestly, to me, sounds like a pretty solid list. By the way, Drive with 5, I appreciate you for tuning in. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I appreciate all of you. Sorry you're having a little bit of technical difficulties. So, like I said, I that was solid. Gilbert could have been better. He was such a good scorer, man. Like, nobody could touch Gilbert at his peak. Unfortunately, the knee injuries caught up with him at the end of the decade, but man, if Gilbert's knee could have held up, who knows? That was solid. Love these shows, bro. Like I said, I appreciate you for that. But like I said, that's what kind of what I had for us today. Talk some playoffs. So I get to do this cool thing in about 10-ish minutes where I get to go sit in on a press conference with the Minnesota Lynx. So that's a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that. It's truly a humbling experience to be able to do cool things like that. Thanks to the network and the hard work of the people in the network. Shout out to everybody in the network. Shout out to our guy Gene, who we wouldn't be here without Gene. So Gene's just kind of the GOAT for that. Saying shout out to Key. She's got all the connections. So, but hey, that being said, I appreciate every single one of you. If you want more and one content, you can check out the N1 Podcast Facebook page. We're on here every Thursday on Wire to Wire. And hey, if you're big in Discord, there is a Discord for the N1 Podcast. So you can reach out to me. My name, I say you can catch me on Twitter at Brett Gardapi or however you want, and I'm more than happy to give out, the Discord to, keep building the community. So that being said, I definitely thank you everybody for tuning in, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night.